very smart.
This is my overview on the new DJI Action 5, and also we'll be comparing it to the new GoPro 13. We're gonna go heavily over the image quality, but more importantly, we're gonna go over all the stuff that I find more important to these type of cameras. One, does the image quality hold up? Two, how easy is this to use? And can we just set it up, click record, and get what we need in high quality that can kind of meet, you know, all the high-end cameras that we have now. Now, this video is sponsored by DJI, but don't get it twisted. For all the cavemen in the comments, I'm a full-grown adult human being who's perfectly capable of doing an unbiased video. DJI is not telling me what to say. They're not controlling what I can or cannot say. So catch me outside with all that. Let's get into it. Right off the bat, you can see the front screen on the Action is way larger. It's honestly a bit sad seeing GoPro fall so behind and kind of, I don't know, it's a little depressing, honestly. No hate against GoPro, but, and then you see on the rear of the screen here as well, the screen's also, it feels more in depth. One of the biggest things for me is just the whole interface for the Action 5 here. It just feels modern, it feels intuitive, it doesn't feel cheap at all. But then when we go over to the GoPro here, it feels just a little bit, I wanna say, out of touch. You gotta go over here, then you go to your settings over here, and then the way it's laid out just kind of feels old school. I don't know how I feel about that. So this is all the custom settings in here. And then back over Action, this is where you control, you know, your lens types, your stabilization. And then if you want to go and customize your settings over here, it's all over here. Really intuitive, you know, nothing too complicated. But the weird thing about the GoPro is in order to go to the full sensor readout, you can only put in the wide mode. There's no distortion correction. We're on the Action 5 in the full sensor readout. Again, it's a 4x3 mode. We have the ultra wide, the wide, and then the D-warp. So now I'm in the ultra wide. So it should have similar distortion, and you can see it's pretty much a similar field of view. I'm going to put the Bronco back into rock crawl mode here. Let it shift. So you see I have a display on my front screen right here because I can't see over my hood right now. This is my view. And there we go. It's not that crazy of a hill, but definitely a SUV or a crossover couldn't get down this. But the Bronco just makes it easy. Again, having the bigger screens on the Action 5, especially on the front, it makes a big difference from when you're trying to document yourself and film yourself. We're kind of in the river. Let's get out of the river. Okay. Try not to run any bushes right now. So another way I really like using these Action cameras are for vlogging on road trips and such. So this is kind of a similar setup I would do. The cameras aren't perfectly aligned right now. It should be a good test for stabilization too. Pretty bumpy road. I don't know if you guys can tell how much I'm getting it bounced around in here. Usually when I do shoots like this, you know, I don't want to set up my camera or try to break it out, especially when I'm off road. Especially if I'm just trying to, you know, document the experience. You know, I'd rather just put an Action camera up because the stabilization, everything is going to be able to hold up to it. So. Alright guys, so I've been using this on the motorcycle. If I want to try to get a fun shot of Sedona playing fetch, we're here at the creek right now. I'm going to use this to wrap around the stick. I'm going to throw the stick. Hopefully it doesn't break this. Then hopefully Sedona picks it up perfectly to where it captures her. We'll see, but you can imagine if this was like a commercial shoot or a spec shoot, whatever you want to do. If you're doing like a 2 to 5 second insert and someone's watching on their phone, their computer, their laptop, iPad, whatever it is, the image quality is so good on this now that a normal human being is not gonna be like, oh, that's an Action cam. Some people might think like, you know, we went more intense with it. Obviously it's connected to a stick, so that's kind of a giveaway there. But again, when it comes to the image quality, I'm just like, I'm shocked. Already in a couple of my YouTube videos, there's some shots that, you know, for a good 5 to 10 seconds are in there. And people are like, oh, I love like the motorcycle shot. Was that the Blazar Remus? Was that the S52X? Was that the FX3? Which is wild. But when you're watching on a phone and stuff, like, again, just the image quality on this, it's finally holding up to what we've always kind of imagined Action cameras could do. It's doing it now. So this new little neck attachment's pretty sick. There's just a button in the back, so it comes off like that. That's why I just have this clamp going into the DJI selfie stick. So I have a cool idea. I'm gonna show you how I rig this up. I will put a link in the description to all the rigging parts that I show off in here, especially this guy, because I've used this probably the most in the Southeast, or the Action Stick, whatever it's called. I don't know. Anytime you're trying to do some funky stuff like this, I'm just gonna go connect to the app. Their app control and the wireless control is some of the best out there. Even like the Pro Gear, they literally just have the best ecosystems. The DJI wireless mic, this connects straight to the Action 5. On the Action 4, you're able to connect one. With the Action 5, you could connect two. These mics are amazing, 32-bit flow. You can record directly onto here. So in this video, I'm hoping that I cover a lot of bases, whether you're like an adventure filmmaker or just a vlogger, or just trying to make cool Instagram stories or reels. You know, there's a lot of fun things that you can do with a little camera like this. And again, the image quality just looks nuts. For stuff like this, this is gonna be my dedicated camera for all this stuff. Then when it comes to rigging these up, GoPro pretty much stole DJI's magnetic mount here. So you just click these two sides and it comes right off. The GoPro I got was just the camera itself. I didn't get the attachment for it. GoPro pretty much stole a similar magnetic setup. I'm curious if the Action magnetic mount will work on it. It won't. But the one thing the GoPro does have that I wish the Action 5 did was a quarter 20 mount on the bottom there. If you want to get that on the DJI Action, you have to do one of the magnetic mounts or a cage, which is fine, but I think it'd be kind of cool if they had that. On top of that, the GoPro does have their little feet that come out as well, which are also very handy. But again, with the magnetic mount of the DJI, you can easily buy attachments that pretty much do the same thing, but it would be cool if it was built in plus the magnetic setup as GoPro did. Let's talk about lens attachments now. One cool thing that GoPro did with their release is they came out with a bunch of lens attachments. And one of the things I'm most excited about, which I probably won't ever try, is they came out with an anamorphic attachment. So while I think it's a cool move by GoPro, I also think it's kind of a weird move. And I kind of wish instead of them focusing on lens attachment stuff, they just focus more on their internals on this and the design and innovating. So yes, obviously the lens can come off and, you know, replace them. Same with DJI here. So theirs just easily spins off here. They just spin off just like that. Now I'm gonna go play with Sedona a little bit, but I'm gonna film a little bit more with these cameras, and then I'm gonna go home because I forgot my big bag of all my Action accessories. I really want to go over and show you guys what you can get with the Action 5, because for me, I use a lot of different things to utilize this to its maximum potential. So this is the bag that I kind of keep all my DJI Action stuff in. You can see this is where all the goodies are at. I'm gonna get some footage of me and Sedona playing fetch, and I'm gonna use this little neck guard thing. The image quality on the Action 5 is so good now to where I'm going to use it a lot to, you know, vlog and document some of my trips like this where, you know, there's too much stuff going on. I don't want to break my DJI Pocket 3 or have a giant camera out. That's where, you know, an Action camera comes out. So good guys, this is the, you know, the adventure vlogging test here. I think this is how a lot of people are going to use it. Let's make sure I don't eat. Wasn't too bad. So after we get some snow and the snow starts melting off, this river really fills out. But you know, we're at the end of summer right now. We haven't had much rain, so it's pretty dried out right now. Right now we're running on the Action 5 mics. We're right by this little, you know, our river's pretty dried up right now, but you know, there's a lot of ambient sounds happening. I'm talking from right behind the camera. I'm going to switch over to the GoPro right now. We're going to see how the sound sounds on there. Again, there's no mics. There's nothing on there. This is purely for gonna be like, you know, an adventurous person who's gonna be vlogging. Sedona's always finding any type of wood wherever she can. Let me see it. Now I'm gonna just switch to the front and we're gonna see how the audio sounds then. So we're back on the Action 5's audio right now. And then I'm gonna switch over to the GoPro right now. So now we're on the GoPro. Let's see how this sounds. And again, we have a lot of ambient water and sounds around us, so, you know, there's a lot of noise going on. All right, guys, so now let's go over the specs. I feel like Action cameras have become Swiss Army knives for, you know, a lot of content creation or just family cameras or whatever, you know, you do with them. I'm gonna look at my notes here just so I don't miss anything. So spec-wise, they both have, you know, ultra-wide lenses. They're both pretty freaking wide. They both have open gate crops. The GoPro feels just a tiny bit hint wider but the Action 5's HDR is superior. One thing I did notice is the GoPro likes to overexpose. So usually when it comes to these action cameras, I like just putting them in auto mode and just letting them do their thing. I notice in those modes, without any tweaks, keeping them in log, the GoPro likes to overexpose a little bit and it blows out the highlights. The HDR just isn't as vivid as it is on the Action 5. That brings me in, the Action 5 likes to kind of underexpose sometimes, but you'll see when we go over the color correction, you're able to bring up those shadows. In the Action 5, again, the HDR is superior, so all the highlights are still there. So for me, again, hands down, the Action 5 wins when it comes to the image quality. And also it's a little bit, I feel not just sharper, but overall there's a little bit more clarity. So that could be the lens design or it could be the sensor. I don't know. Again, I feel like the Action 5 has a little bit more detail rather than just sharpness, which is even more important. All right, guys. So the last little bits that I want to go over before we wrap up this video, we now have internal storage. You see, we have 48 gigabytes there. I don't care if you're a full-time professional filmmaker on a giant set or, you know, just one of my friends that likes to document their hikes and just, you know, travels or whatever it is. Internal storage should be a must-have on any modern day camera now. And I'm sure some of you guys are guessing the GoPro does not have any internal storage on it. Now that will lead me into when it comes to transferring footage off these cameras. Obviously, if you have a micro SD card, you could just, you know, take the micro SD card in, put it into a micro SD adapter, put it into a SD card reader, or if you have something like the Action 5, you can just plug it directly in from the USB-C port here. And not only will your computer pick this up as an external hard drive, but also if you have an iPhone, you can plug it directly in via USB-C and you'll be able to access the internal memory and the SD card. When you plug in the GoPro, you can't do that. I have to go through different software just to import it, and it feels a little bit more slower. So once again, the Action 5 is just giving us all these modern features that should be included on every camera now. So last thing I want to mention here, both of these cameras have fast charging. With the GoPro, you do have to go through the battery door where the micro SD card is located as well. And you just plug it in and it should start charging there. You see we have a little red light right there that lets you know that you're charging. But with the DJI Action 5 now, we have our own little USB-C battery port right here. So you don't have to reveal the battery or the SD card right there. But I'm gonna just plug it in. Once again, even the UI for the battery charging is way nicer on the Action 5. It shows you on the front and on the back over there, or I just got that backwards. Anyways, let me just say the fast charging on the Action 5 is way freaking faster than the GoPro. So much so, I don't even think GoPro should be calling it fast charging because it takes so much more longer. On the Action 5, literally within 20-30 minutes, I feel like it's back up to like 70 or 80% of the battery. That is freaking crazy. The GoPro just is nowhere close to that. Just to wrap this up, again, the fact that DJI was confident enough to let me compare the new DJI Action 5 to the GoPro 13, I think says a lot. So not only does the Action 5 edge out the GoPro 13 when it comes to image quality and HDR, also, it's a big improvement on the original Action 4. But the biggest thing for me is how easy and intuitive the Action 5 is to use in comparison to the GoPro. Everything from the menu and the clean interface to the ecosystem between, you know, instantly be able to connect the mics and the full app control, and then the full mature original magnetic mounting system that DJI came up with. And there's even more new features for the Action 5 that I didn't even get a chance to go over, between like showing the elevation, water depth, and active track, all this stuff. So I'll be sure to include a couple videos in the description of this video to some of my homies that are going to go more in depth on all those things. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope I helped inspire some of you guys to get out there and just to film with, you know, even if you end up picking up the new DJI Action 5, there'll be a link in the description for that as well. Or if you're just using whatever you already have, it's an inspo to go out there and just use, you know, use your cameras, go out there and have some fun. Again, the DJI Action 5, the huge image quality upgrades on this thing is enough for me to, you know, really start taking action cameras serious now. And I think that's been my biggest takeaway with this release.